What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. It is Friday, so we're live at the home of the Hurricanes, Duffy's Tavern, right there on the edge of Coral Gables. 60-plus years serving the Miami community. We're fired up, man. It's a huge weekend. Got a huge weekend here at Duffy's. Obviously, got all the games on Saturday, and then Sunday got the early Dolphins game, 9 o'clock. Over there in, where's it, Europe?
Madrid, man.
In Madrid.
Come on, in the greatest venue in all of sports, the Bernabeu. Not the Santiago Bernabeu anymore. They took Santiago out of it. It's just the Bernabeu.
So bringing some real football to the old world there. So check it out here at Duffy's Tavern. Also, you know, we're going to talk about Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about someone injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. If you don't have to hop in, you're already here. You stay here. So how you feeling on this Friday, man?
Feeling good. Feeling good, man. And by the way, I said the Bernabeu, Real Madrid Stadium is the pinnacle, the best venue of all in sports. I got to take it back because Duffy's Tavern is the best venue of all in all of sports. So yeah, man, I'm pumped up. We got a Friday here, a game with a lot of meaning. Obviously, we understand what this one means for the rest of the season here. And like I've said earlier this week, man, and just talking to some people yesterday, I love the vibes right now. The team, I think, is locked in, obviously dealing with a lot of injuries, a lot of guys who are banged up. So I think that will be a very, very interesting thing to see who steps up in certain spots, certain situations, D. But I feel good, man. You know me, man. If the vibes are off, I'll say, man, I don't know. I don't like what I'm hearing. But I think there's a lot of guys ready for this opportunity here this weekend against – we keep saying CJ Bailey. You're playing against CJ Bailey. You're playing against NC State. You're playing against a team with some weapons offensively, but really like how Miami matches up in this one.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. One MG says, "How does Mario overcome being a 14-point favorite tomorrow?" It is a scary spread. Usually that's a good sign, but for us, it's been a little scary. But good vibes going into the game. Let's get this thing going. We're going to bring Lance Roffers, Hurricane Vision himself, in a second to break it all down. The arena appreciates your support, says attack, 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 go Canes. Good start would go a long way. So let's just go ahead and bring him in. Why are we wasting any time here with the man himself? You know him as Hurricane Vision on Twitter, Lance Roffers on CanesInSight, where he does his Upon Further Review column, which really breaks down play-by-play what's going on the field from an X's and O's perspective, a fundamental perspective, the details of the game. So get ready for a huge game against NC State. We had to bring him in. Brought to you by Canada Financial. This is Upon Further Review with the man himself, Lance Roffers. Lance, how we doing?
Hey, not bad. How are you guys this morning?
Never better, man. Never better. Big ACC game. I get some, deja vu in a bad way, thinking about you breaking down Louisville, you breaking down the SMU game and some of the areas where they could hurt us. Those ended up coming to fruition, and maybe the ways that we were supposed to attack and the issues we were supposed to avoid, we couldn't. We saw it happen there. So hoping for some more positive energy here against NC State, a team that's very dangerous, has got really talented skill position players.
Yeah, I feel as though NC State is a dangerous team that probably has underachieved just a little bit this year. I think they had higher expectations than what their record has shown thus far. A lot of that is some of their defensive breakdowns, really. But they've got a quarterback that, I may actually take over any other quarterback in the country. Probably Julian Sayin would be, in the conversation as well. But CJ Bailey down there he's got all the tools right now and has the ability to beat you with his legs and with his arm. He's also a really smart quarterback process as well. Somebody made a comment about how's Mario going to overcome being a double-digit favorite. I saw in the comments, and that's scary, right? We've had a couple of instances where they've fallen off. I think Miami can definitely score on this team. It's going to be about, can they get ahead early and then just be able to pressure and put the pressure on Bailey to have to keep up.
Let's start with CJ Bailey because you made a very strong statement. Pete, save that for the clickbait headline later. But you said CJ Bailey, aside from Julian Sayin, you might take him over any quarterback in the country with how well he's playing. Huge game against Georgia Tech without really his top back in Hollywood Smothers or his top receiving option, tight end Justin Jolie. So strong words. It's funny. It reminds me a little bit of Mendoza in that you're talking about a tall, like 6'6 plus, or at least 6'5 plus South Florida quarterback. Then when you watched him in high school, not you, everybody watched him in high school. No one necessarily projected what he would turn into, or at least he wasn't there yet. And he started having some success, started early. A lot of local fans, I know, because I had to deal with these people, were saying, oh, you're just talking this guy up because he's a local kid. This guy's actually mediocre. But then as he continues to develop into his body, as he continues to get better, as he gets more experience, now nationally, you're hearing people talk about CJ Bailey like they did with Mendoza. So what do you see with CJ Bailey, and why do you make that statement that you think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country?
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of high school quarterbacks that basically have tools, right? You've got a frame, you've got height, you've got ability to manipulate and move in the pocket. Obviously, they have to be able to make throws, right? You see hundreds of quarterbacks like that throughout the country, right? And as you're trying to evaluate them, you're basically putting them into a bucket. You're looking at things you've seen in the past. You've seen things that translate, maybe some things that didn't. There are so many things that you can see on film, but what most of us can't see is, what they're doing behind the scenes, right? What's their drive to actually be excellent on the field? How do they understand the game in the film room? Are the coaches basically propping them up? And then something you had to take into account with CJ Bailey, quite honestly, was, he played with Jeremiah Smith and JoJo Trader. You 2 5-star wide receivers in high school is pretty unheard of. I think he also had a pretty good run game, quite honestly, in high school. So you look at those things and you try and separate what is it that Bailey is contributing and what are those other players responsible for. And that was a difficult ask. He was also pretty skinny in high school, and you wondered, how was his body going to hold up at the next level? To his credit, he's answered a lot of those questions just through his own work ethic and his ability to process. That's the thing that maybe I missed whenever I was evaluating him, was his ability to process at the line of scrimmage. His high school didn't ask him to do quite as much. They simplified things quite a bit. When you have a Jeremiah Smith, that's a pretty good game plan to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith and get out of the way in many respects. So I think I probably attributed a little more of his success at the high school level to his receiving core and not as much of it as I should have to him. I also want to qualify my statement just a little bit. CJ Bailey has more than 1 year remaining, so that factors into why I would take him maybe over, just about anybody else. You got Ty Simpson playing very well, Mendoza playing very well. Those guys are probably going to the next level after this year, and Bailey has another year, so that factors into it. But I just really love the way that he extends plays in the pocket and is looking to hit explosives rather than just dropping his eyes and looking at the rush. That's another thing that young quarterbacks tend to do, right? When you get just a little bit of pressure in a pocket, you tend to drop your eyes and start looking at that rush and looking for escape lanes. Whereas Bailey really just kind of has that natural ability to move in the pocket, sense where pressure is coming from, and then hit explosives down the field. His receiving core is not great, quite honestly. It is probably below par at a P4 level. And so a lot of their success is him creating and making plays. But those kinds of quarterbacks traditionally have also given Miami trouble, right? If you look at the film on some of the things that's happening with Miami, there are chances that the offense has, and there are times where the quarterback that we're playing just doesn't hit it. And those can be the difference between opening up that 21-point lead and really being able to coast versus having that 7-point game and really having to, kind of hang on.
Lance, you mentioned that the skill position talent. Look, the tight end and the running back are to be top flight sort of talents. Like you were talking about more about the receiving core, but to me, what makes it difficult, man, you look at how he spreads the ball around. You have 5 receivers with 20 receptions or more this year, and then you throw Hollywood Smothers and Justin Jolly, the tight end, in there. That's 7 skill position guys with 20 receptions or more. So he's not someone who necessarily, we talk so much in the Louisville lead up. Hey, they've got Chris Bell. You got to worry about him. We knew that was going to be an issue. The thing that does concern me is obviously you got Bailey, who, and I said it yesterday, you don't need to, scheme up as much for him to go out there and make plays down the field. But yeah, man, seven guys with 20 receptions or more, pretty crazy stat there. And I think that's going to make things, difficult for Miami.
Yeah, again, it kind of speaks to his ability to process and just find an open man, right? Rather than force feeding targets to an individual. They don't have to build their offense around an individual receiver, but they also struggle in those pivotal moments where they don't have a go-to person, right? And so at that point, it is Bailey make a play, or you're probably going to be punting or turning the ball over. And that's what I see on film with them quite a bit. Anytime I'm saying somebody's below average, I'm talking about it against a P4, athlete. I'm not talking about me, right? They're better than me. At the P4 comparisons, their peer schools, things along those lines. NC State overall at the pass catch level is probably below par, and their quarterback allows them to play up with just his processing ability and his ability to kind of like find open guys. If it sounds like I'm gushing about CJ Bailey, it's because I don't believe he's just limited to college. I think he's going to be in the discussion next year to be a top 10, top 5 pick. Julian Sayin is probably, the favorite for the number 1 overall pick next year. But if I had to say a guy that's number 2 right at this moment that you expect, because you expect Dante Moore to go, he'd be in the conversation if he comes back as well. But CJ Bailey is right up there as translating to the NFL level and succeeding on the college level. So he's really what gives you pause is the quarterback, because it's just so important in today's football game. So.
Yeah, I don't want to veer towards draft talk, but I know we always talk about it offline. So, yeah, Julian Sayin is going to be an interesting one because, because my buddy, Coach Duaso, is his 7-on-7 coach. So he's been telling me this guy's the number 1 pick forever. I've become such a proponent of physical tools with NFL quarterbacks. Obviously, you need the intangible stuff as well, right? We know that's kind of table stakes. But it seems like, you kind of need superpowers at the NFL level, which when you watch Ty Simpson in college, he's incredible. I think he's the best, probably, like, as far as playing quarterback right now. To me, he's the one playing at the highest level. Saying obviously his stats are ridiculous, and he's doing exactly what he needs to do in that offense. But, man, I'm kind of gravitating more towards the physical tools at the NFL level when you look at, like, a Herbert and Allen and the strides they made, Lamar Jackson, right, how much better he got, Jalen Hurts, how much better he got, So I don't know. I don't know where you stand on that because – yes, there's like a.
I was going to say here, Cam wasn't a physical freak by any means.
Well, he's got a lot of arm talent, though. He's a pretty talented thrower.
You don't think Sayin has the arm talent?
I don't think Sayin's going to be throwing sidearm across his body,
Sometimes it's not a great thing. I don't know that I want that. I'm
probably
sorry.
Not that he has that in his bag, that's what I'm saying. Where are you at? I know this is sidetracking, but you are such a draft guy. Where are you at on Sayin from an NFL standpoint? Who would you comp him to maybe?
Yeah, I love to just sit back and listen to you two go at it because you guys, you make good points. And Pete jumps in with things I would say quite a bit, right? You talk about the sidearm and all that, and I'm like, yeah, but is that a good thing? Is that what we want?
I'm not sure I want that, yeah.
Yeah, so the ability to make off-platform throws and the ability to, just make a wrong play right is absolutely important at the NFL level right now. And Danny, you and I talk about this all the time offline. It's one of my favorite things, the drafts and all that kind of fun stuff and projecting. And for years and years, I've been a keep me on schedule, process pre-snap, find the open guy, be super accurate, stay ahead of the chains, and then hit explosives when they're there type of quarterback guy. It's why I love Tua, and I'm pretty known for, really being behind him as the pick whenever that happened. Now, I didn't know that he was going to be quite as hurt as he'd been, but, just coming out of college, that was really why I preferred Tua. And as the game has evolved, and just like you're talking about, right, these quarterbacks in the NFL, they need to be able to make a wrong play right. You saw that last week with Josh Allen make some just unbelievable plays where he's moving around, buying time, 6 seconds, have the arm to do that. But he's also an outlier, right? And so if you're betting on outliers for data that typically hasn't translated, you're probably going to miss more than you hit. And you have seen a lot of those big, strong-armed quarterbacks who can kind of move around but weren't super successful in college fail at the NFL level historically. I think the NFL is moving more towards tools. If I could talk about Simpson just a little bit, he has an elite arm. His arm is Baker Mayfield type, right? He's small like Baker, but he has just an absolute gun of an arm, and he hits 15 to 20 to 25-yard throws at a clip that's higher than anybody in the college level right now. I'm talking about air yards. So that's something with Simpson that I do believe is kind of a superpower for him, but he's also small, and he's probably not going to shrug off the Jalen Phillips of the world like Herbert did, in that game against the Dolphins to kind of win it there at the end. So to me, you obviously want both. Right. You really want you want a guy that, is 6'5", 230, who can run and break tackles and make plays. Those guys go number one, and they go number one for a reason. Right. But if you're in a year where you don't have one of those guys, to me, I'm still going to lean towards the guy that keeps me on schedule, the guy that has proven that he can elevate his surrounding cast. Again, I go back to Jeremiah Smith, with Sayin and some of those things. How much of it is Julian Sayin and how much of it is a system where they just have better talent than everyone that they're playing week in and week out, and he's hitting the open guy on his first read. With Bailey, I know that's not happening. I know that he has to, elevate his crew. I know that he's got some good players on his team, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he has an elite, surrounding cast. Ohio State might have 4 or 5 first-round picks just this year on that team, right? And NC State has 0 unless, Bailey were eligible, in my opinion. And so I do take that into consideration as well. It's one of the things that as I look back about Mahomes in the NFL draft, I think of the fact of how he elevated that cast so much and had elite data. There were things with him that you didn't like with some of that off platform that you've already mentioned, Danny, where today it's seen as a good thing, but at that time, if you'll remember, it really wasn't. And so, you kind of have to put all of that together and just make the best decision that you can with what you have. And you really want to know that off-field stuff, right? What is their desire as far as being great and how much work they're going to put in, or do they love the lifestyle that comes with being a great quarterback? Truth be told, I would love that lifestyle, as a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
That would have been really cool to be like a, nationally famous quarterback, and some that comes with that. I probably would have fallen into some of those traps. I definitely wouldn't have been spending every minute thinking about football and living football. And when you can get a guy who does have all of those gifts and that ability and still lives and breathes football, I bump them up on my draft board.
Dominic here says, Lance has me worried every Friday. I'd much rather hear D-Money saying these teams suck. Lance just said the receivers sucked, so at least
I did not say that.
Well, let's get into this because I want to get on this. It's a great point because, I got to say, the thing that I was most just off on this season was I was really worried about Notre Dame, right? Really worried. I think Notre Dame, I'm not surprised at all at how well they're playing. I thought they were one of the absolute best teams in the country, period, point blank. I still do. Florida, I thought, was a team, that was a team that concerned me with Lagway's kind of thought about the tools, right, which have not materialized to this point. But I thought Lagway would have that kind of higher gear and we'd have some problems with him. That didn't end up happening. I thought the ACC would be able to just overwhelm some of these teams. Obviously, Louisville, SMU, that didn't happen, particularly in the running game where I thought that would be the biggest advantage we had in conference play. It's been the total opposite. We ran better out of conference. So let's compare, Lance, because you were very dead on with SMU and Louisville and some of their strengths and how they could hurt us. So I want to get past Bailey a little bit into the personnel around him and the way these guys operate. Starting on offense, when you look at the offense of NC State compared to Louisville and SMU, in terms of points per game, they're actually third in that group. They're in the, I think they're in the 40s as far as ranking nationally. They're about 29 plus points per game. Louisville, SMU in that 30 range. Miami actually is right above them, but they're all kind of clustered together, with NC State being the last one, which surprised me because I thought they might be higher up offensively. Do you think there's a matter of them just kind of finding their rhythm? How do you assess NC State's offensive scheme and personnel and ability to execute compared to a Louisville or an SMU?
Yeah, I think the big difference with those teams is their coaches. Louisville has an elite play caller. He just has such an innate ability to understand your tendencies and anticipate what you're gonna do as a defense, and call plays that really impact that and hurt what it is that your tendency, especially in big moments. That's something that Braum is just amazing about. He really saves and tees up plays for the big moments of the game. I call those kind of swing moments. That's Braum's superpower. And then
the Missouri State top 3 for Tony Valdez: Jake Berger, Lance Roffers, John Goodman. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, not all three of those people. But anyway, I think that that's kind of Brahms' superpowers, just his innate ability and feel for calling plays and dialing up. He sets up plays very well, right? Lashley has a scheme that just stresses defenses in a way that they don't want to, that breaks their rules. I called pretty much all of the explosive plays that happened in that SMU game because you see them all the time, right? You just see a defense and eventually they guess wrong, right? Or someone breaks their rule and, gets a bust. And SMU, that's what they live on and need to really be able to thrive. And in games where for whatever reason that doesn't happen, you see them struggle, like that Wake Forest game, right? That was not a reflection of anything that SMU was doing differently in that game. They just didn't hit those opportunities when they arose like they did against Miami, right? So that was a pretty predictable thing to see happen for them. NC State does not have that advantage. Really, what they have is they have a quarterback who elevates everything around them. I think their scheme is fairly average. Again, I'm talking about compared to $1 million coaches, right? I'm not talking compared to me. But, I think that is something that Miami can take advantage of. I think they are pretty tendency-based. I think they really don't have an offense that stresses your rules overall. I think they run a pretty basic college offense at this point. They just have a quarterback that allows everything to play up. I'm not especially impressed with their coaching staff overall, where it's like, oh, I would steal that, or I wish Miami did that kind of thing with them as much. They're pretty standard. They run the RPO game. They want to hit the, outside runs quite a bit. They're looking for explosives in the seams. When you have a tight end like they have, that's basically going to be a large focal point of your offense on some of those swing downs. I think they'll give Miami trouble with the tight end and the running back out of the backfield because Miami has so many times this year struggled to cover the flat and then cover that hook zone when they force Teray to make some of those decisions. Not calling Teray out specifically. He just happens to play that position, and it's difficult, right? It's difficult for a reason. There's a reason everyone's running RPOs because it's hard to stop for those, overhang defenders. So.
Lance, no Keontae Scott this week. Big blow. Obviously been, you could argue, our best player this season, right? And has just been – He's cleaned a lot of stuff up defensively, right? Like he's finished a lot of plays for that defense this year. I mean, what do you see as I wouldn't say there's an easy fix or easy solution there, but what do you see as a couple potential ways that they could mitigate the loss of Scott?
Yeah, you nailed it. You said it's perfectly there for me and what I've seen from Keontae Scott. He has been an eraser from his nickel position. Just his ability to tackle and be physical has been something that has changed this defense, in my view. There have been so many plays where if he doesn't make that tackle or if he doesn't finish it by shooting a gap or a blitz or, getting a guy down, you're probably looking about a pivotal play that gets that maybe gets 15, 20 yards more. You're basically going to do the same things that you would expect, right? You're going to find the next guy up. I think Damari Brown has done a great job of tackling on the outside as well. I think it's possible that someone like that could help fill a big nickel role. You've got Jacoby Thomas. Jacoby Thomas is another portal addition that, in my opinion, has transformed the defense with his physicality. The SEC kind of gets they have this big reputation, but a lot of that is earned, and it's earned through some of these players that are just a touch more physical than their counterparts in other leagues. And that especially rings true in the secondary, where you see a lot of their players that are just at a different level when it comes to physicality. And I feel Jacoby Thomas has really filled a lot of that role for us. Now, if you move Jacoby Thomas from where he has been playing and you move him maybe into a nickel role, or you move him forward into the line of scrimmage, now you lose a little bit of that simulated pressure abilities that you've had in this defense quite a bit, where you've inserted Jacoby Thomas as a creeper. One of the great things that Jacoby Thomas can do is he basically could be a linebacker for you. In fact, he's probably as big as a bunch of the linebackers Miami has had in past years on some of those defenses, right? And so being able to utilize him where you walk him down, you insert him in as a creeper. If you move him from that role to fix the Keontae Scott role, now you've potentially weakened 2 spots, right? And I don't mean that as a slam on Thomas, but he's probably not going to be quite as good as Keontae Scott as a nickel, right? And then the next guy that you move into the Jacoby Thomas role is probably not as good as Jacoby Thomas. So you've kind of moved or weakened 2 spots there. That's not an ideal thing, but you do have to find a way to kind of cover that up. Do you want to see like a drastic reduction at the nickel spot and keep Jacoby Thomas where he is? Or do you want to maybe see a small step down and then maybe see a small step down at the Jacoby Thomas? I think that's probably the direction they'll go. They'll probably move Jacoby Thomas forward a little bit and line him up over that nickel spot, especially because NC State doesn't really have like that dynamic Malachi Toney type slot, that you would need to game plan around. So I think that's probably one of your fixes. You could also go big nickel a little bit more. You could insert another linebacker into that spot if you wanted, because you do have some linebackers who are excellent in coverage. I'm actually blanking on our linebacker who's kind of a coverage specialist name
Pruitt.
right now. Pruitt. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
He played a lot last week.
Yeah, I'm not quite as good as Steve when it comes to just being able to remember every single name that's ever
22
in Miami, but Pruitt could be somebody that I believe you could, allow him to be a little bit more of a coverage linebacker in this game at times. One of the reasons why Pruitt was able to play as much as he was is because Miami finally did get a little bit of a lead, in that third quarter, and it forced Syracuse to be a little bit more predictable. So I do think that's another key of the game. I want to see Miami really try and pass early to run late. And what I mean by that is you really want to try and dial up some of those explosives to get ahead in this game so that NC State is trying to have to play catch up rather than getting behind like we saw them do in that Louisville game, where you basically at that point allowed them to just try and stay on schedule and have a high success rate and absolutely get Miami into chase mode where you're not then just being able to pressure their quarterback all game.
I'm seeing a good amount of people in the comments too, Lance, suggest Jadeus Richard, who I'm a big fan of, but I would be surprised if they thrust him into that spot a week, second week after his return. I just would be very surprised. Not saying he won't be in the mix potentially, but I don't see him being like the main guy in that role.
And it's a new position for him as well.
Right.
So now you're risking some of those busts that we talked about. One of the things with the safety position that, you really want to ease those guys in a little bit, because when they do make mistakes, they tend to be noticeable mistakes, right? It's just like an offensive lineman. You basically want to not know their name because that means they're doing their job over and over and over, right? And that's similar with your safety position, where you just want to be in the position that you're supposed to be in to dissuade from even throwing the ball or taking the deep shots, right? But when safeties bust coverage or when they jump the post, when they're supposed to be, covering the vertical in the one, things along those lines, that's where you see some of those explosives that can turn games. And to me, there's really only 2 ways that NC State can win this game. And it's, your typical turnovers, right? Where if Miami just turns the ball over and Beck maybe has an interception-filled game, you could lose that way. And then, of course, the other is allowing those explosives, right? Whereas the team that you're playing doesn't have to do some of those 13, 14, 15 play drives to score touchdowns. And if Miami stays away from both of those things and doesn't fall into the, run into the brick wall trap that we've seen them run into at times, I do believe they will win this game. I think they'll win it, by 7 to 10 points or so. If you're a betting person, I probably would take the NC State side with the points personally. But, I'm not a betting person, and that makes these games a little bit more fun to watch times. But that's my side of things as far as the way that NC State would be able to stay in this game, the way Miami is going to cover for some of those nickel and some of those injury spots, and what I hope to see on offense.
Before we get into the NC State defense. I want to talk about that. It's going to be a lot more pleasant conversation than talking about, Smothers and Scott, their running backs who both average over 6 yards to carry. Jolly, probably the best tight end in the ACC. And then Bailey, who we talked about. Jacarius Peak also, I know you're a draft guy, left tackle that probably is going to be see his name come off the board at some point. But before we get into that, we got to talk about our friends at Canada Financial who made this whole thing possible. They are the official sponsor of Lance Roffers upon further review, and that's timely and that's appropriate because that's what they do. They review. You don't want to spend your nights looking at spreadsheets. I was looking at way too many spreadsheets last night. I'm going to give Sebastian a call, and that is Sebastian at 786-213-3909, CanadaFinancial.com, CANNATA, so 2 N's, 1 T. Born and raised in Miami, now living in Atlanta, still going to all the games with season tickets. And Lance, you're a numbers guy. You know how much time goes into spreadsheets and all this. When you want to be the CEO, it's hard to do both.
Yeah, I've focused quite a bit on the forecasting part of things whenever we talk about our friend at Canada Financial, but also, the bookkeeping, right? Who wants to sit around and balance their books and do that kind of stuff? As a small business owner, you want to be, out trying to grow your business, increase your revenue, increase your, profitability. You don't want to be spending time doing the bookkeeping. Give Canada Financial a call, go to their website, set up time to discuss with them and let him take that stuff off of your plate so that you can, be outgrowing your business and doing some of the things you enjoy. Basically, people who love that kind of thing, they do that for a living for the most part, right? And if they don't, they don't, right? And so most people don't love that stuff, but our friend at Canada Financial does, and so let him take that off your plate and you be out growing your business.
CanadaFinancial.com or call and text Sebastian 786-213-3909. I'm sure he'd love to talk about NC State and your business as well. So while we talk about NC State here, I think here's the one thing that we had talked about it earlier that kind of surprised me, I guess, with Louisville and SMU was they were highly ranked on defense going into those games against Miami. But I thought personnel-wise, there wasn't a lot of NFL players on these teams. There were a lot of guys that they lost in the portal that could have helped them or lost to the draft or whatever. So you said, okay, their stats are good against ACC comp, but is this a type of defense that's actually good against, a higher level of talent, recruit, NFL prospect, et cetera? And turned out they performed pretty much towards their ranking when you talked about against Miami. Now, it wasn't like overwhelming physicality, but they were opportunistic. They made the plays they needed to. They played well in the red zone. They took the ball away, all those things. So you look at the defensive ranks of NC State, totally different. So comparable to those teams offensively, but defensively is where you see the big difference. Just for numbers to back up what I'm saying, SMU 20, Miami are number 11 ranked defense in the country for perspective against FBS opponents. SMU 24th, 21.2 points a game. Louisville 22.3 allowed, good for 38th in the country. And then when you get to NC State, you drop all the way to 119th, 33.1 points per game allowed. That's actually lower than Syracuse, which is 110th, lower than Stanford, which is 90th, actually not that bad. I thought that'd be worse. Lower than Virginia Tech, who Miami plays next week, which is also a pretty porous defense. So this is one of the worst defenses on paper that Miami is going to face. You look at USF, another one that's where's USF at? USF, I believe, is 70th in the country, lower level of competition. So this could be the weakest defense on paper that Miami has faced. Their whole defensive backfield portaled out to schools like Indiana, LSU, South Carolina, USC, and they're all playing very well for those teams starting. So they lost a lot of talent in the defensive backfield. We took their best linebacker who's not even playing for us in Colin Bonner. So on paper, you say this is a matchup that could be a get right for Miami offense that desperately needs a 40-plus point performance in the ACC, right, against a real opponent to kind of feel good about themselves. How do you see NC State's defense both schematically and just effectiveness?
Well, you did a pretty good job laying it out there. You know, they are not very good. They are not very physical up front. They struggle to create.
This edit's gonna be great after the show. Man. You may not like me very much, man. The receivers suck. The defense isn't very good. I'm messing with you, Lance.
Hey, listen, you get a lot of truth from me, right? Like as I see it, I'm not your cheerleader. I need to do a better job of cheerleading at times, probably, and pumping up the positivity. I think, but. You know, I just tell the truth as I see it, right? And to me, their coaches aren't super impressive. Their talent is not super impressive outside of the ones we've talked about. Their quarterback, they've got a good tight end. They've got really strong running backs as well. So that's what makes their offense go. On the defensive side of things, they have struggled. They've got a lot of injuries too. So they do have several players that are out that they probably expected to, play key contributions for them this year. They've had coverage busts. They've really struggled on third down. I'm talking defensively here. They've really struggled on getting teams off of the field on third down. Where they also, what's been a key separator for them in some of their statistics, especially in the points that they're allowing, they have struggled in the red zone quite a bit. They're allowing touchdowns, whereas SMU and Louisville have done a great job once they've gotten into the 20s of clamping down and really putting that vice on the offense. Miami fell right into that trap. In fact, in those games, right, we had several possessions against SMU where we were in field goal range or the edge of field goal range and would make mistakes at that point and really cost us the game. That's where NC State has had less success, right? They really have not been able to have the physicality to prevent teams from running the ball in the low red. And when I speak to the low red, I'm talking about the 10-yard line and in. Teams will call that the low red, and then the high red is 10 to 20. So when teams do get into that low red, if they can run the ball, it makes offense so much easier, right? Because then you can score touchdowns by simply handing off. Against SMU and Louisville, they really put a vice in on those A and B gap runs that Miami has so much loved throughout the year and forced Miami to beat them in the pass game, and Miami was unable to do it. In fact, you saw the same thing happen on the interception in overtime in that game that really effectively ended things. So against NC State, I do believe a key is being able to move them in the low red to score touchdowns rather than kicking field goals. That's a pretty common football, Bible verse there. And then I think another thing that I really enjoyed seeing in this particular game, when I say this particular game, I'm talking about against Syracuse coming into this game. They ran quite a bit more pin and pull, and they did run some outside runs where the running backs had the ability to bounce just a little bit more. I was super impressed with Pringle in that game. I'd like to see him get a little bit of an opportunity in this game against NC State and see if he can maybe carry some of that momentum forward. It looks to me on film that Lyle is still struggling with an injury or something has impacted him this year where he just quite hasn't looked like the same player that we saw last year. Some of that could be scheme holding him back, right, where maybe he's just not as great of a interior runner and he needs something more to get him on the edge. But, to me, Pringle has kind of impressed me a little bit more on film than Lyle has. So I'd like to see him get some more opportunities in that, explosive scat back type role. I think this is a game that he could hit a couple of those explosives. And then a big key for me in any Miami game is to get a lead early because of the fact that Miami has such an awesome pass rush, right? Where you have Bain and Messidor. You have two All-American level players on the edge. But when a team is able to just stay ahead of the chains and have that short passing game going over and over, you cut Bain or you just RPO against him all game and you're not able to get off the field, it really limits what you're able to do in that pass rush. So I want to see the offense get ahead in this game, pass early to run late, and then I want to see the pass rush really be able to make it difficult on Bailey to, hit some of those plays that we've already talked about.
To your point on Pringle, Lance, I think we do see more of this. I think we see an uptick in touches and more of an intentional, effort to get him the football.
Pete, our guy Kirk, who I know he wants to be at Duffy's right now, he says Gerard Mercury Pringle can't sit on the bench until the second half. Hopefully the coaching staff saw the light. How do you like this comparison, Lance? I know you're a Dolphins fan, so I want to make sure you saw this comment. Kirk, before the game, where Pringle broke up.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah. And we agreed. We've been saying Pringle should play a bigger role as well to get more explosive plays. But he made this comp, Lance. I wanted to run it by you. I know you weren't around, but you're a Dolphins fan. Jim Kick and Larry Zonka, you had power and power. And then when you added Mercury Morris to the mix, you got that dynasty with the Miami Dolphins. So he calls Gerard Pringle Mercury Morris. But beyond that, we need some explosiveness in this running game. How can we get this running game more explosive?
Yeah. So as with anything, right, it's more than one issue. It's not simply the offensive coordinators calling poor plays. It's not simply the offensive line isn't getting pushed, right? I think the running backs can help in that respect as well. I think there have been holes there that they've missed. I do think that, when you're talking about a zone run does not have a designated area that run is supposed to go to, right? It's allowing the defense to basically move themselves out of areas for flow, right? And running backs have the ability to kind of hit some of these cutback lanes, and they simply haven't this year for whatever reason, right? Maybe they're not seeing it. It's a lack of vision. Maybe they're not pressing the hole to get the linebacker out of position to be able to hit some of those cutbacks. Offensive line, they have failed to hit some of their, backside cutoff blocks at times as well. I personally believe our left guard position has struggled this year and has really been the weak spot of the line. I know a lot of people have really focused on center. To me, that's been a little bit more about what they've asked the center to do things that the center's not great at personally. You saw Brockemeyer play very well in this game against Syracuse. They asked him to block the nose tackle one-on-one quite a bit less in this game and got him in space and asked him to cut off runs. He had, kind of a pretty Twitter famous block on a screen where, he just annihilated a safety out in space. So they really, in my opinion, asked the offensive line to do things that suit their skill set a little bit more in that Syracuse game. I think NC State's defense is a lot more like Syracuse from a talent perspective than, what we saw maybe in Louisville and SMU, which were much more disciplined in my mind and really run funnel. And when I talk about a run funnel, it's basically setting a trap for the offense to run into. And Miami fell right into that in those games quite a bit, in my opinion. So if we could see a little bit more, of the pin and pull and the breaking of the tendencies. Breaking of a tendency doesn't mean starting a new tendency, right? It just means setting enough outside of what you typically do in those situations to make it where the defense can't just essentially guess it every time, right? So rather than running it 80% of the time, maybe dropping that to 67% of the time would be some tendency breakers. I'm not talking about throwing screens to your right tackle. I'm not talking about throwing throwback, to your quarterback. Those things only happen because, Miami was up big. You're not throwing a ball to Maui,
and Mario hates Fran Brown.
Yeah, sure. And he's not a very likable guy, in my opinion. So, I'm not a huge fan of Fran Brown either. Some of his theatrics are performative in my mind, but I won't diatribe about Fran Brown, but I think he's fake as AF, basically.
Let's go.
So I'm with Mario on that one. At least Mario is real. You know what Mario is going to be pretty much every day, whether you like it or don't, right? And so those are some of the things that I would love to see. I would love to see just a little bit more of the tendency breakers. I would love to lean a little bit more into the pin and pull. I think it fits the skill set of the offensive line quite a bit for some of the movement that we can have from our left guard and center instead of just asking them to line up and beat a guy in front of them, which I don't think they're well suited to do. So I love seeing that a little bit more. I would like to see Pringle a little bit more because I believe he has the vision on the cutback and can hit some of those explosives a little bit more than what we've seen. I'm also, probably less patient than coaches are because I'm not there on the day-to-day, right? Where a guy, if he's working hard every day and doing the right things, maybe he earns it with a coach a little bit more than just some guy on the couch who's only watching the game film, right? I'm not watching the practice film and not there in their workouts. A lot of times when us fans ask, well, why is this guy playing over another guy? A lot of times that goes into it. And we just don't have that in.
I haven't been able to confirm, Lance, that Kamal Bonner will be going to the other side and playing for NC State in this game. He could help them out defensively.
Yeah, well, maybe he would help us out offensively if he plays the way he played against Syracuse, where he didn't play very well in that game and actually gave up their touchdown. But, yeah.
So the scheme that they run in terms of the 3-3-5 and how we can attack it, I mean, this is a team that historically has played pretty good defense with better personnel. Where do you see some of the missing spots besides the fact that they just don't have the personnel to get it done?
Yeah, physicality up front, right? They're getting moved off the ball quite a bit and creating angles for the offense to be able to do whatever they want, right? Where if you have a defensive line like they've had in the past, right? NC State has kind of built their name on having pass rushers and defensive linemen that have really, exceeded what their recruiting ranking is. I mean, you could probably list 5, 6, 7 defensive linemen from NC State over the past, 10 years or so who Miami fans are like, well, why didn't we get that guy, kind of thing. And they just don't have that at this moment. The portal has really hurt them as well. Yeah. They don't have the resources that a lot of their peer institutions do. And you're seeing that really take its toll in this kind of portal where the depth and some of those, just key players keep getting sliced off the top against NC State, and that's impacted them quite a bit. I don't love their scheme. I think it's a little bit of a soft scheme, right, where it's more built to slow down some of these tempo, pace, and space offenses, and they just don't have the physicality that some of their teams of the past have had.
Yeah, just adding it up. So from 2018 to 2021, so basically a 4-year stretch, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defensive linemen drafted in a 4-year stretch from 18 to 21, and then none since. So I think the coincides almost directly with the portal era.
Yeah.
So I think that's a dead-on observation there. And then linebacker that Peyton Wilson, who's tearing up in the NFL. Probably should have been a Miami Dolphin, but that's a different, different discussion. But we actually talked about him back in the day. I remember. I think I was too high on him. I wanted him like in the late first or whatever it was. Probably would have been too high, but the guy ended up being a great player. It's hard to tell with the injuries. But
Danny is low-key the best at reminding you when he's right. He will just work it into conversation. He says it with a grin. He's just laughing. He makes you feel good about yourself as he says, I was right and you were wrong. Good job with that, Danny. I really appreciate your long memory.
I don't looking at the names.
I don't smile about Lofton with you.
Liam Eichenberg, my guy. I thought the guy was going to be a Pro Bowl something. Liam Eichenberg. That was my guy. I thought Liam Eichenberg was going to be something legit.
I think you missed what Lance said. He said he doesn't bring up Elijah Lofton.
Oh, yeah, we did. Well, he did. He brought it up last time. I bring it up. I got to eat that one. I mean, it's amazing.
That's true. I do. You know what? I get my own jabs back in. I do it with a smile, too, as well. But, fellas, I got to run. But as always, I enjoy, the space. I enjoy the conversation. Both of you are considered good friends. And I think Miami's going to get this one. You probably, if you listen to the pod, you heard my trepidation in that Louisville game, right? I was a little bit worried about that Louisville game. It did come to fruition, unfortunately. SMU, we gave that one away. I thought we were going to get that. Against NC State, I do expect us to win, probably by about 10 points. I really want to see Miami get that 21-type lead if they can. And then, at that point, you're able to kind of coast. NC State probably gets a late score to make the score a little bit more, nice on the scoreboard for them. I just don't think they have enough defensively to really kind of slow down what Miami has built to do. They're a line of scrimmage team. They're very good at the line of scrimmage, and that is something that is going to be a weakness for NC State. I think they're probably going to have to compensate for that quite a bit, and you'll see some of those intermediate and deep throws open up for Beck, and I think he'll have time. His first read will be open just a little bit, which plays into Beck's strengths. I think you see a big game from Beck. I think you see Miami get back over the 30-point threshold in this game. I think NC State, tries to keep up, runs out late. Miami wins by 10 or so. 35-25?
35-25. Upon further review, thank you to Canada Financial and thank you to Lance Roffers, man. Go enjoy your weekend. Go Canes.
Thanks, guys. Go Canes.
Thank you, Lance. I have our I know you'll probably want to get a couple plugs in here. Do you have our predictions?
You read my mind. So. Yeah, well, let's get our predictions up. While you're getting them up, I got a prediction here, and the prediction is it's Friday. A lot of people are going to be watching the clock, trying to get ready for the weekend for Miami, so they'll be killing time doing something. Why don't you play some games on your phone? And while you're playing games on your phone, instead of just wasting time, you're producing and making money, and you're raising money for charity, the Rare Triple Win KashKick app. That's KashKick at the App Store, one of the biggest apps in the country, 1.5 million plus downloads, 4.5 plus average rating. Download the app. You've got all the games that you want to play consolidated on your phone, on the app, whether it's puzzles, action, adventure, RPG, whatever you want to play, whatever your kids want to play, whoever wants is there on the KashKick app. You got it right there. And as you play, you make money on the side. It goes right to your PayPal. Easy does it. Advertisers send money right to you just for playing games. And while you're making money for yourself, you're also making money for the American Cancer Society, which will receive an equivalent donation from the advertisers. So the rare triple win situation: win by playing games, having fun; win by making money; win by making money for the American Cancer Society. KashKick, KashKick. And while we're spelling things out, you know I got to spell out one of my favorite company names. That's OrchidMan, ORCHID Man, Florida, the landscape artisans of Florida, Palm Beach, down to the Keys. 786-271-0332. That's OrchidMan, ORCHID Man, Florida. Any landscaping needs you have, residential, commercial. You want to look high-end, you want to look big time, deal with someone who's dealing with big-time properties all across South Florida. You see those OM trucks everywhere. Everywhere you see nice landscaping, you see that OM truck. People are always telling us in the comments they just saw another one. That's because this guy is working with his team. They make landscape maintenance easy. It's not just the pretty work, the flowers, the design, all that stuff. It's that stuff plus the dirty work, the maintenance, the tree stump grinding, the hurricane prep, the irrigation, you name it. They do it. They'll make it easy for you. They will be the quarterback of your landscape. OrchidManFlorida.com, ORCHID Man.
We're here, of course, at the legendary Duffy's Tavern, the home of the Hurricanes, as we are every Friday, D. I'm sure I'll be back here at some point this weekend. Definitely may catch the Dolphins game here Sunday morning. I have the predictions ready to get pulled up here, D. So
let's see.
I'm going to bring them up. Once again, man.
Positive Pete.
I mean, listen, this is it's always interesting to me when I have the biggest score spread here as I pull it up here.
You know, Tristan
Actually,
Breeze has it lower. Does
yeah,
he have us
no,
winning? Or does he have Tristan Breeze have
Tristan has it tight. You have it. Guys, I'll spoil it here. D has it the tightest out of anyone here, which not sure if it's good or bad. But
I've been up and down. I've had some that I've hit. I've had some that I've been way off. So I know Louisville I thought was going to be a great win, and it was terrible.
So here it is. We got.
There we go.
I gotta get it right here.
Oh, there we go. They're zooming in. There's the Orchid Man. Orchid Man's got us in a shootout, 48 points. I'll take that. That'd be a fun game to watch. Wouldn't cover, but 12-point win. That'd be fun. Pete, 38-24, right on the spread.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that I didn't even do it because of the spread. I just think we won by 2 touchdowns.
I think of all these scores, Mike's the worst because our offense would have been stuck in the mud to win at 28-21.
We just had that same exact bagging up said the same thing here. Even though he said the Cards, which I think he meant the Wolf Pack, but
yeah. Don't give me nightmares. So I had 35-31. I think I might have had a similar score for UF, which ended up being the total opposite. I thought Lagway was going to just have a motivated game and just tear us apart. He ended up having one of the worst games ever, and U.S. offense had one of the worst games ever, and we won going away, covered easily. So hopefully I'm wrong again. I just see this offense having a lot of talented guys. They get Hollywood Smothers back. They get Justin Jolie back. They had a great game against Georgia Tech last week, so they're in rhythm, which is a little different than how Florida was playing before we got a hold of them. I do think we're going to score. And this is the most important thing. I think we score, we'll win. But I'm nervous. And look, hope I'm wrong, man. Hope I'm dead wrong.
Yeah, I feel good, man. I have a hard time believing that this team comes out flat. I think they're going to come out. I've said it all week. I think they're going to come out ready to play. And I think that's the formula for NC State to win this game is you jump out to a double-digit lead. You score 10, 14 points early, just like Louisville did. And then you force Miami's offense to kind of play out of character. Not that they can't score against this defense either way, but if they hop out to a lead, then it would certainly change how their defense plays. And I think they're really going to try to keep everything in front of them, like we've seen a lot of these defenses do, and force Beck to make mistakes. But I think Miami comes out ready to go, man. I think that Miami jumps on them early.
Yeah, I think that would be huge. And just to get some numerical perspective to all this stuff, I look at some of the rankings here. So Miami's offense, and I've said this, and when I say this, it's not to hype or spin. Our offense and our inconsistency on offense, our penalties on offense, our turnovers in the Louisville game, that's the reason why we're looking at 2 losses and fighting for our lives in the college football playoffs. So don't misunderstand that part of it. But I will say our offense is scoring, I think, more points than people think. We're 31st nationally with 31.4 points a game. Not where we need to be. I think we need to be in the top 20 given our offensive talent, our offensive line talent, our quarterback, some of the guys we have, Malachi Tony. But we're not like the horrible offenses that we've seen for most of the last 20 years. This is actually, if it stands, this would be probably the 3rd best offense we've had besides Derek King with SMU, and then, of course, last year, which was by far the best ever, or best of the last 20 years at least. So 31.4 is where we're at, and you want to climb higher than that. NC State's given up 33, which is one of the worst in the country numerically. They're scoring about 29.5, which is less than Miami. I think they're better than what their numbers are. I think they're rounding into form. They're getting healthier. They're playing at a higher level. They play some pretty tough teams. So we'll see how those numbers add up. But I think if Miami can exceed what they're averaging on the season and we get to that 35 mark, which is where I had them, it's going to be hard for the defense not to win you the game, barring some crazy stuff going on. That would be the number I'm looking at, that 30. Definitely with a 3 in front, but hopefully in that 35 range, which is more than they're allowing NC State on average, but also more than Miami scoring.
Birdstone says, doesn't feel like it. This is one of the least explosive offenses we've ever had.
It is. I mean, it is one of the least explosive offenses we've had. We're in the hundreds in every explosiveness category. Now, some of the stuff that they do well that people kind of scoff at is helping them score more, like the not taking a lot of losses, right?
Well, that's the problem is it's been mitigated a bit with the penalties. That's the issue.
Exactly, which is why you've lost when you've had a lot of penalties. And also they're good in the red zone usually when they get down there. Now, if you have an explosive offense with all the stuff that you talk about that's good about this philosophy, some of the, not taking losses, being able to run in short yardage, which we haven't done as well lately. We've been too predictable in short yardage. When you add all that stuff up, you get what you had last year, which was the number 1 offense by far, which was efficient, which was on time, which did not take a lot of losses, but also made a lot of explosive plays. So I think what you're looking at with this offense is it is not explosive. And when you get a lot of penalties, it's very ineffective and they'll lose games. But there's some stuff it does well. The key as you head into potentially a playoff run and really just trying to win this game and go 1-0, which we know November is always a house of horrors for the Canes. You got to get more explosive. You got to avoid the penalties, and you got to run the ball better and keep doing the things that you're doing well. And then that 31 points becomes 35 points, which is, if you were averaging 35 points, you're talking about closer to that top, 10, 15 range, or probably top 15, top 20 range. And I think that's where Miami needs to be the rest of the year, is in that 35 range.
Yeah, the margins are small, man. Those little things will make all the difference in the world. So let's hope they finish strong.
Yeah, Rocco saying you can be good and not explosive. You can have a good success rate. I think right now Miami has a good success rate. I have to pull up the exact numbers. Miami ranks high in success rate. They rank extremely low in explosives. And the offense that you get is, 31st, right? It's not great. It's not bad. If you want to be great, or at least very good, the success rate's fine. The penalties need to go down and the explosives need to go up. And that's why I think Pringle and P, you were talking about this. Dominic says Duffy's looks like a vibe. Duffy's is a vibe, the home of the
I'll get into that in a second. I have a little bit, not a theory, but
give it to us.
So one of my favorite things about this place, I'm just going to tell you, is that the lighting is great in here. It's not like, yes, you can get that dive bar classic homey feel, but the lighting is good. Sometimes I go to these dive bars and it's like, I mean, listen, sometimes you get stuck in there for hours watching games and you forget, but you get the best of both worlds here, man.
Pete loves the
natural lighting is unbelievable, man. The light that comes into the front here to the side, top notch, man.
It's coming right at us.
Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I think you like the lighting because people always compliment your physique over at Duffy's.
I don't know that's the lighting, man. I don't know that's the lighting,
but yeah, man. But
Jose, I was just saying the lighting here is one of my favorite things about hanging out.
Hey, Jose, get in here. We got Jose.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
The what's your official title? GM.
GM, do it all. There we go.
There it is. So you make the trades and you sign the free agents.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So what you got going on this week, and why should people head out to Duffy's?
We've got a great Sunday morning after we recover from a great win. You know, I have a house divided. I don't know if we've talked about that.
Oh,
but
yeah. Let's talk about it.
My son's a current NC State student, so he brought down a bunch of Wolfpack guys to go watch the game. So right now, half the house is in red, the other half is in orange and green. So, but after a great Canes win this weekend, we'll be celebrating here at Duffy's. 9 in the morning, Bloody Marys, mimosas, you name it. We'll have all those early drinks to celebrate a Dolphin win. So we'll be here. Big and tall. So
what's your prediction before we get you out of here? Now everybody knows that you got the dual loyalties. Your son also worked for the team too. So
he did work for the team.
He knows these guys personally.
I'll be honest with you. You know, the only thing that I think that Miami's got is that NC State's defense is not the best right now. I do think that it'll be a shootout. You're going to see a really high scoring game because Chan Bailey can fling it. I saw him down here play. You know, so he could threaten us with the long ball. So hopefully our D line can get to him quick and we can go through there. So
Kirk Menendez is someone you know very well. He says, I moved my homestead exemption to Duffy's.
Yes, he did. No worries. Yep, yeah, he did. No worries. We were thinking about naming a sandwich after him, but well, you know, we didn't know what we'd call it. You know, like the Kirk fish special or something like that.
All right, man. Well, hey, Jose, appreciate you. I got the polo on.
I
was worried someone was going to ask me for pretzel.
I have it on under here too,
guys.
As well.
I didn't get the memo. Sorry.
My wife complimented me. She's like, "Oh, where's that? Where's that from?" I had to show her Duffy's Tavern.
That is a nice one.
Fits
yes,
like
it
a
is.
glove.
But you know, I want to thank all the guys out there in CanesInSight world. You know, a lot of you guys come during the week and say, you know, shout out and stuff to Duffy's and stuff. And you know, again, we're the home of the Canes. We're home of all the fans. You know, home of the UM students. We've seen a really big uptick on UM current students at coming through here, which is what we want to make sure that everybody knows out there, that he goes, this is your home. You know. And stuff. So welcome.
And Canes Connection home game.
That's right.
Against Virginia.
That's
the road game
for
the team, home game for us at Duffy's Tavern Saturday.
Yes,
Virginia
sir.
Tech. Canes Connection involved as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that is correct. They'll be here with a big group. So
yeah. So
all right, guys.
Check it out.
Thank you,
Jose. You're the man.
The ambiance, man. The Duffy's ambiance.
The comments are going crazy on Duffy's right now. Jose, they said you're the GM and a bouncer.
Oh man, yeah, this gets me fired up to come back here later today or sometime this weekend, man.
Yeah, seriously. All right, but we talked about the predictions real quick. Recruiting. Let's get some recruiting here before we get up out of here, Pete, because we're getting too close to signing day. We got to talk recruiting. You know, I think the class is pretty close to what it's going to be. So as we just go through the class real quick, break it down. Right now, it's the 10th ranked class in the country, which, you know, you want to be top 10 as a goal. You probably want to be higher in the top 10, especially
when he said it.
You did want to be. Yeah, but listen, I want to be top 5. You know, I think Miami's going to be active in the portal again, right? It's going to be a combination effort. But I think when you look at this commitment list, you'll see a couple guys drop. There will be dropped. You know, there will be mutual partings. I don't see any threats of like actual decommits that we're trying to like hold on for dear life with. I don't see that. Could be. I don't think so. But you would like to add. I think when you talk about adding to this class, Amari Latimer, Pete, I know you're going to get into it here. You talked about the work Discord. He's a name to watch, being a big running back, 4-star player out of the Atlanta area, Sandy Creek. A lot of Miami ties. Don Latimer is a relative, and he is 225-plus basketball player, can catch the ball, super athletic, super productive, 10-plus yards of carry. I think Miami would love to add him. Tennessee in there lurking. Gavin Mueller, who's committed to Colorado. There's a few schools in the mix there. I think North Carolina's trying to get in there, but Miami loves Gavin Mueller, tight end. He is an emerging player, former basketball player, 6'5", every bit of 250. Says he runs a 4.5. His film looks like that. I believe it. And he'll be here this weekend. I'd love to get that one done. And then defensive line-wise, you've seen all the movement. I think they look to add one more big-time player, whether it's a Nolan Wilson, a Tank Jones, a Bryce Perrier-Wright, you know, Drake Quinn, someone in that category. They would love to add. They're going to move aggressively to that. Other than that, I don't know if there's a ton of balls in the air.
Yeah, Drake Quinn's a good one you brought up. I think Ohio State and it's funny because Miami is really in the Amari Latimer battle there. You mentioned it. Tennessee is more of a threat than Ohio State is. I don't know that Miami really considers Ohio State a threat for him at this point. But Dre Quinn, they're also battling Tennessee and Ohio State there. And I know Miami probably felt a little bit better about that one a couple of weeks ago, D. And I think those other programs have made a big push there. Amari Latimer, though, you're in those final stages, from what I understand, of kind of finishing off the NIL negotiations here. So I think, look, you got to get that one over the line. I think the hope is that it gets done sooner rather than later, D. But the running back spot, they've been needing to add another guy there for a bit now. And the focus has really come on him here for the last month or so. Yeah,
let's talk about Amari Latimer, Pete, because he had a great senior year. That's why you see it in Ohio State and all these other schools poking around Tennessee, teams that recruit at a high level and recruit back at a high level and produce NFL backs as recently as last year. But this dude, man, his size
it's
different.
It's coming through laggy, D.
Oh, why does mine always lag?
It may not be buffered yet. You may have to pause it and let it buffer. Let me see if I can bring it up.
You're the buffer king. Yours is always smooth. All right, see if you can pull up some stuff on Latimer here.
Call me Jimmy Buffer.
As far as you even got that reference, that's the first. I guess music. You're pretty.
Oh, he was a Keys guy, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, my grandfather was a big fan of his.
So Amari Latimer listed at 5'11", 230. I know he's verified at least at 225. 4-star player, number 19 running back, according to the composite. What I like about this guy, basketball player, it's a very good basketball team, won 3 straight AAA titles. He was the MVP of the championship game against Cedar Grove. So this guy can actually play basketball. We got to find his basketball clips if he commits. His brother plays DB at Wisconsin. Like I said, relative Don Latimer, former Cane Great, a lot of UM ties. Been extremely productive, 1,000+ yards the last 3 years. High yard per carry. Very good receiver, which I think is unusual for a bigger back. I think that's the basketball background. He's just a coordinated kind of guy. He can go up and get the ball, Moss guys. But, I am a very big fan of what he brings to the table. Oh, real quick, while we're watching Latimer, Tyler Cannon asking, I need some CanesInSight merch, boys. Where can I buy some? I appreciate you. Usually there's a marketplace under the YouTube video. If that's not popping up for you, CanesInsight.myshopify.com. So Shopify has all these short stores set up. Our Shopify store, just write CanesInSight. You can get the hoodie, which I've been wearing nonstop. It's been a little chilly for my taste down here in South Florida. I know it's colder everywhere else. You get the CanesInSight hoodie, you get the shirts, hats, everything you need at CanesInsight.myshopify.com. So that's at the Shopify store. But here we go. So watching Latimer, and I mentioned he's a pass catcher. This is a 225-pound high school back. You don't usually see 225-pound high school backs go up and get it and then
downfield like that. Yeah.
Look at the rest of what he does. Speed's not elite. He ran 11.5 as a sophomore. I think he's
probably, you already have bagging up complaining about it here.
Yeah. That 2 big backs. Ohio State's got a pretty big back named C.J. Donaldson. I'm sure they're happy with what he can do. You need big backs to win championships.
Do you take that back, that you wouldn't have taken C.J. Donaldson?
I think Fletcher's just as good. The problem is Fletcher's hurt. So, I wish we had him now. I don't think he would have played over Fletch. Again, another guy that was committed to Ohio State.
He looks like this is a Belen sort of team here.
Because of the helmet?
Yeah, well, the uniform looks like the Belen uniform.
Bagging up says that's not all they have. We got a guy named Gerard Pringle who I think is pretty good. He's going to get some time. But I think, you don't want Gerard Pringle to be your only back. And this guy's versatile. Look at it. This guy lining up at receiver, catching it in the crowd. So this is an athlete here. But yeah, look, I think you need a compliment.
Yeah, Anthony Jones. By the way, Anthony, are you gonna? How's it looking? Are you flipping soon? Or?
Yeah, Tank. What's going on?
He says Miami needs to get those home run running backs instead of a room full of big bruising backs. He says that's why the run game is sucking. I think there's a lot of factors into why the run game isn't as explosive as it could be. But yeah, more Pringle would mean more yards per carry, I'd imagine.
Pringle's gonna help in that. You try to get it with Chris Johnson. He just wasn't good enough. Mark Fletcher was not the problem. Mark Fletcher was averaging well over 5 yards a carry and was an outstanding player for you. I think his injury is hurt, and the fact that you just haven't had more players beside him has hurt. Because Marty Brown's going to do what he does, but he's not, going to be your explosive back. And then Lyle, who you hope to be your explosive back, just wasn't. So I think that's really the biggest issue from a personnel running back standpoint. Let's see if Pringle can add that element. I think in a perfect world, for this Canes team, if Lyle's not going to be effective and Marty Brown's going to have his role, you have Marty Brown in his role, and you'd have Fletcher and Pringle as kind of your best guys. Now, Pringle's got to show it. He only showed it against a bad Syracuse team. So we got to see consistency. But I like what I see with Pringle. I'm a big fan of Pringle. And I think in a perfect world, you have Pringle busting these big runs, and you have some of these big backs like Latimer doing their thing. But big backs win championships. It's been proven through the last 20-something years. But explosive plays win championships too, and that's what Pringle can provide. I think what you're watching Latimer, I mean, once he
gets downhill, he's a freight train. Oof. Once he picks up the speed in the open field, he's got some long speed. It seems like
Oh yeah, he's making a lot of plays. Again, Tennessee, they got a pretty good running game every year.
That looks like the Miami running game right there.
Boom,
right up the middle. Have to break some tackles.
And it's not just a size problem. I mean, Damian Martinez was a power back, and we were top 5 in yards per carry last year. I think there's a lot of things.
I will say, bagging up does bring up a good point here. I will be interested to see what he does with his body type, because like we talk about players who have just these body types that are, yeah, you want them to slim up if you can and get them faster. Like he's a huge dude already. And I don't see him getting smaller, D. Like he's gonna put some weight on when he comes here. So what's he gonna be moving like when he's 235?
Yeah, no, 100%.
That's something I would watch with him.
Bagging up says 2 best running backs in the ACC are who? I mean, Isaac Brown's a great back when he's not injured. He's been injured most of the year.
Hollywood Smothers ain't bad.
I mean, Fletcher's injured too, so it's not only exclusive, to smaller backs. But the problem with smaller backs is these guys get, you can't workhorse those guys. I don't know who else he's referring to in the ACC. So let's see what's going on. Don Martucci, you guys are talking about these running backs, like these running backs from Mike Tolbert. I heard Mike Tolbert. I love Mike Tolbert.
Mike Tolbert. That's what Lofton could be.
Yeah, that's what he's. That's what
in a perfect world.
That's what I thought he'd be. Rocco says Sandy Creek always a take for me from that area in Georgia. I think we had Marcellus Pulliam from Sandy Creek.
I think so.
Didn't work out, unfortunately, but he's from that area. Yeah, man, Latimer, these senior highlights are sick. This is why this guy's – so Latimer is a guy that I would say is a riser, which is why he is getting interest from the Ohio States of the world, the Tennessees of the world, et cetera. I think you just see why. I mean, this is really good tape, man. And on a good program, you just see him. He knows how to run. This is an athlete. It's not just a stiff, straight line-ish kind of guy. I think, and I'm the biggest Fletcher fan on the planet. I think if you compare him to Fletcher, this guy's a little smoother with it a little bit. Being a basketball player, I think he's just got a little more of that coordination to him. Whereas Fletcher, explosive, straight line explosive, and does it that way. So, no, I'm a big fan of Latimer. We'll talk about him as a potential ad. Pete, why don't you pull up another huddle because you got the magic touch, man. This is coming as smooth as silk on my stream. Pull up Gavin Mueller's senior highlights, which just came out. Because Gavin Mueller, man, this is a very, very impressive player. Tight end out of the Chicago area. Not the best competition. Chicago produces, by the way, a lot of NFL players, probably more than people think. We've got some players from Chicago with Justin Scott, Marquise Lightfoot doing a really nice job. But Gavin Mueller, man, this is an interesting player for me.
Big
Mule. He's visiting this weekend.
That's what I'm going to call him now.
I love it. Big Mule. He runs like a big mule, as we'll get to. Look at it. I'm going to share real quick, Pete, before you – okay, yeah, pull up those highlights, actually. Let's see this. Former basketball player with Big Mule. He was above the rim player in basketball, dunking all over the place. Moves to football last year, commits to Colorado, has an injury, so he doesn't really get to show everything he could do. But then this year, he has completely exploded. There you see him at tight end, you see him at Wildcat. Look at this guy move, man. This guy's 6'5", 250 legit. We had him on a visit. He's coming back now, so we know how big he is. He is, from what I'm told, every bit of 6'5", 250, like on a scale with the tape measure combine. Like that's his real size. And look at this guy move, man. I know the competition stinks, but Aaron Hernandez played bad competition in high school too. I remember watching his high school film, and sometimes if you dominate, that's what you're supposed to do against good bad competition. But look at this guy move.
Hopefully he's Hernandez.
Yeah, until the end of it. But yeah, he's got quickness and then the speed. He claims a 4.5. I'm not pushing back on. He's running away from these dudes.
Yeah, no, he's. I mean, look, it's kind of similar to what you saw with Brock's shot, right? You knew he wasn't the best he wasn't playing against the best competition there, but you could still see the athleticism shine through. So similar sort of situation here. Not as much juice as Brock Shot had some real burst to him.
Yeah, I mean, not that much different though. I gotta say, I mean, this guy's fast, man. I mean, look here he goes against a corner, easy money. That's not the best corner, but I mean, some of these.
You got to look at who he's up against there.
No,
I don't know.
I love Brock Shot, but Brock Shot also is going against weak competition. But look at the speed, man. This guy's got juice, man. He can run. I wouldn't put speed in his weakness. Now I will say, with Brock and with Mueller, I think what they could both use is just more reps against good competition as a receiver, like running routes and stuff.
At the college level, he's getting tackled there in the flat. I'll go back on that play. That he's able to pull away. Look, he's getting tackled there. I'm sorry.
Stiff arm, easy stiff arm, then the juke. There it is. This is a 4-star player, by the way. He's been rising up the rankings. I think he might even get a little higher when they do the new rankings. There you go.
I don't know, man. The more I'm watching this, I gotta say, the less confident I'm feeling. This is terrible competition, D.
Well, what are you supposed to do besides run for 60 or 70-yard touchdowns?
I'm not saying he shouldn't be, but
what's he supposed to do?
But there is an adjustment level. The speed of the game becomes a huge adjustment. I think we've seen that probably with the reason why guys like Luka Gilbert and Shot aren't playing yet. And I think they could probably make an impact.
Look at this, boom!
But
this is what he's supposed to be doing, man. Look at that. Hey, you're supposed to dominate bad competition. I like the athleticism.
I don't see the speed. I'm agreeing here with Gio Kane. I don't see that same speed, man. He doesn't have.
For 6'5", 250, what do you think 6'5", 250 is supposed to look like? He's claiming 4'5". I bet you he goes down there and he runs. I mean, dude, this guy's – how many tight ends are breaking these long runs repeatedly in their highlights?
I mean, I'm sure if we looked up the top 10 tight ends in the country, they'd be doing the same stuff.
Shoot. I mean,
and I'm a fan of him, but I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit here.
I'll accelerate the brakes on this one. This guy's scoring every single time, easy. And look, what are you supposed to do? Again, I go back to Aaron Hernandez in Bristol, Connecticut. I remember watching his highlights, and I remember thinking, he scored touchdowns every single time. He's going against white midgets. And it turns out the guy was just good. He couldn't control his
competition. It goes both ways, for sure.
Look, if he was not doing this against competition, I'd be concerned.
Yeah, I think Kyle probably has it on point here. He says, I wouldn't say speed's a weakness, but I wouldn't call it a strength either. I just don't think that his speed is a difference maker at the next level is what I'm saying, D.
Look, he's not he's 6'5", 250. I think with Izzy Briggs, probably going to be faster, but he's 210 pounds. Look at all the ways they're getting this guy the ball. It's not a blocking tight end at 6'5", 250. I think this is going to be an athlete. Again, basketball player, new to football. Look at that. That's a nice route right there. Comes back to the ball a little bit. Does he get in the end zone? Drags a couple guys. So we'll see. Let's see.
We need more Aaron Hernandez, man.
Competition looks sketchy for sure. No, the competition is definitely not good.
I'm getting more concerned as this tape continues to roll, D. I'm sorry.
Hey, I'd be concerned if he was getting tackled, not if he was,
Well, if he was getting tackled, I'm not sure he'd even be getting recruited.
Look at that. There you go. Get in there, touchdown. I think this guy's a big-time player. So let me just pull up his ranking because he's one of these emerging kind of guys. So pulling up.
But I don't expect I expect, as long as they both stay, Luka Gilbert and Brock Shot to still be over this guy next year.
So right now he's ranked as the number 15 tight end in the country, 4-star player, 312 nationally. But I think he's on the way up because of the senior highlights, which just came up.
Rocco said you're already giving him the gold jacket.
No, I have my certain players I like. Ross says, D, you're wrong. What am I wrong about? What am I wrong about?
I think he's solid. I think Oso said he said he's not flipping from CU and that he appreciated CU going after him and enjoy his prime. I think that Miami still has a very good shot of flipping.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get this guy.
But I just don't know that he's the savior at the tight end position either.
I don't know. I think this guy's gonna be pretty good. I'll say again, when you look at the profiles of tight ends that do well, they usually are not guys that are out there playing tight end. They're guys that are playing what he's doing, which is wildcat, throwing them, shovel passes, doing all that. They're basketball players, which this guy is. They're new to football. Usually the tight end is not a position where you want a guy that's played a lot of tight end in high school. That's what we've learned from the draft. So I think that's why you're seeing this guy get pulled up and risen up the ranks, is because a lot of the things that when you go back and look at guys So I always go back and look when tight ends make it, what their high school film looked like. You know, Tyler Warren was very similar to this. He was a 3-star player, but he was a guy that was a quarterback, played other sports, didn't play a lot of tight end in high school. Obviously underrated as a 3-star, ended up being first-round pick, probably rookie of the year candidate. That's what you want to see, I think, when you look at tight ends in high school, is you want athlete and size more than you want production. There you go. Trouble's on my side. Gene Willis says he's a D-Money All-American destined for Green Tree. Listen, I'll take the L on Lofton, at least for now. Although I'll say everybody that was on Green Tree said the same thing.
I think, again, I said
injury and conditioning.
The issue, but it's more than that. His role was different.
Yeah.
I think that was a bigger.
Oh, here we go.
Part of it.
Let's get my guy throwing down some dunks. Ralph, that's why he says he's wrong. He said Mario wants it because of his blocking. That's what he cares about. I didn't see the guy block once on his highlights.
Looks good here.
Now, I'll say, Ralph, to your point about the blocking, I think we need a blocking tight end. I think one thing that we've missed on this team, he gets off the ground easy, by the way.
Can you
6'5", 250.
Get this full screen if you can?
I thought you had it open.
You have the Gavin Mueller on.
Oh, I do?
Do you not?
No, that's you.
Oh, it rolled.
Yeah,
it rolled.
yeah,
never mind.
yeah,
it rolled.
yeah.
It rolled by itself. Sorry.
So one thing I think we missed, I think we actually needed more blocking tight ends. That's my problem, is that we did not have enough blocking tight ends. Cam McCormick, we miss Cam. People will always clown, Cam McCormick this, Cam McCormick that. Cam McCormick would have helped us immeasurably on this team because we can't block enough at tight end, and it's hurting our running game. Last year, Riley Williams did a good job blocking. Cam McCormick did an exceptional job blocking. Obviously, Arroyo was a second-round pick. So I think not having a blocking tight end has really, really hurt our ability to run the ball. So I think we actually need a blocking tight end. That's only.
I think Luka Gilbert can be that. I mean, I think Luka Gilbert can be more than just a blocking tight end D. But obviously, they don't feel comfortable enough to play those guys yet. So,
yeah. I think they need to get bigger. I think tight end's a hard position to play early. That's why Lofton was so disappointing because the guy played so early.
But that's what is the weird thing about Luka to me, though, D, because I don't think it's a size thing with him.
No, but he's not the best blocker right now, not because of effort. Just it's hard for freshman tight ends to block that well. They don't really do it that often. I think I would like us to get a Cam McCormick type. And by the way, I said this last year as well. A Cam McCormick type in the portal, an older guy that's just there to block. He knows he's there to block. He can catch it occasionally if he's open, but he is. We need a guy, in my opinion, from the portal, not from high school, that is there to block. And then you'll let the other guys be athletic. You let Brock Schott catch and run. Luka Gilbert will eventually, I think, be that complete guy that can catch and block. Maybe as early as next year, but I would get somebody that can block.
Would have been nice to have Jolly from NC State this year.
Yeah, so again, I think the Chargers is a perfect example. So pulling up the Chargers right now, we all know that if there's one thing that Jim Harbaugh likes, it is big, blocking tight ends. So yes, he has Rondé Gasson catching a ton of passes, but Jim Harbaugh will throw 3 tight ends out there, no problem.
Yeah.
Including some big white guys you never heard of, just blocking. That's his style. It's not that much different than what we do in terms of using the tight ends. He's a little more creative with some of the stuff he does. But I think we need an Israel Briggs, for example, I would say is pure receiving tight end. I think Mueller's probably going to be more on the receiving side, even though he's 250 if we get him. And I think with the blocking side, get a guy that's his job and then free up the other guys to play the receiving role. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
All right, fellas, appreciate you joining us as we get ready for signing day. Remember to like and subscribe to the show. Remember to check out the Miami Hurricane team store for all your apparel needs. Promo code INSIGHT20 gets you 20% off. Gear up for the last home game, gear up for the winter, gear up for whatever you need. MiamiHCS.com or in person right across the street from the University of Miami next to the Thesis Hotel. Gear up, get ready for the season. Use promo code INSIGHT20 in store or online for 20% off. That's INSIGHT20 for 20% off.
And we'll be at the Lickin' tomorrow. Sad occasion, man. It's senior day, and it's the last Lickin' game of the year, man. It's a tough one. Very tough one to swallow.
Yeah, that broccoli will be easy to swallow, though, tomorrow. I'll be enjoying that. And we'll be live pretty much all day until game time, man. So tune in. And Daganov says, why can't we have a tight end that can do both like elite programs do? Backing up, we just had one of the best tight ends in the country last year. We'll get it right. We'll get it right. I think Mueller, I'm high on Mueller. I think he's going to be, just to bring it all back, like if you're asking me to rank guys I like in this class, and Mueller, you got to add him to the class, but he's a profile that I would rate high, on the higher end of the class, personally, just because when you watch the NFL draft, and you watch guys that get drafted high, you look at their history, multiple sports, new to the position. A lot of times, defensive and offensive players, one of the most predictive things I've seen for draft is, are they getting wildcat snaps? Go look at the defensive players that get drafted first round. Go look at the skill position guys that get drafted first round. Go look at some of the tackles that get drafted first round. They're just snapping them the ball because that's their best player, their best athlete. Very predictive. So, again, I'm big on this one. Hope Ivy can get it done. Got to get it done on Saturday. We'll be live at the Lick-In all the way up until the game. And we'll have some fun.
Go Canes.
Go Canes. Like and subscribe.